Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get started, I wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button before you leave. That really helps out with getting my channel promoted. I appreciate that. Today I think I'm going to do some copper inlay into silver, and I've never really tried this before, but it seems the idea I have in my mind seems sound, so we'll see how it turns out. I'm going to be sawing some slots into some thicker silver, and then putting some copper sheet in those cavities and then resoldering them together, and we'll see how it turns out. It seems like a good way to make a lot of cool different patterns. I'm going to do something simple and abstract today, but we're going to make a ring out of it, and it should be, we'll see how it turns out. I think it'll be a fun one. So before we get started, I wanted to thank all of my YouTube subscribers. We've recently passed 6,100. That's awesome. I really appreciate your support. I also wanted to thank especially a new patron I have over on Patreon is Bryn L. Thank you for signing up. I really appreciate your support. I look forward to interacting with you over there. I also wanted to thank all my other patrons who've been supporting me throughout this effort. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate you. Let's get started on this inlay project. Alright, so let's see what I drew up here. This is my design idea book, which is available in my merch store, along with two other cover designs. I found over the past couple of years that when I started sketching things out, I started having a lot more nicer looking final products. So I've started to do that routinely, and that's really helped my growth as a silversmith. So you might consider getting a sketchbook, even if you don't buy mine. So I was coming up with some designs. I have this little piece of ingot left that I cast a while back from some scrap, and there's a little piece over here that I think is big enough to make a ring, the top of a ring, and I thought about doing an oval one. I could do an oval one from that spot. Thought about doing kind of a sunrise thing. My sawing skills are such that I might not be able to do this as neatly as I'd like, so I'm getting better at sawing, but I'm not great at it. This one I thought about doing, but that involves actually cutting all the way through multiple times and soldering it back together with a slice of copper in there, which is possible to do. But that's not the whole focus that I wanted to do. One of the things I've never tried is, let's see, where is it? Like if you look at, this is the final design I chose. This one here doesn't come to the edge anywhere. So all of these other ones I can cut in from the edge. But this one's free floating, so I'm going to have to cut a slot with a saw and then insert a piece of sheet going through it that way. Some of these I'll be able to saw in from the side, and I'm going to have to do it in stages, I think. So I think I'll probably do the free floating one first, but before I even do that, I'm going to have to cut this out, this rectangle. And I just, you'll notice I used some marker to color the metal, and then I scribed it with the end of my pick, so it shows up pretty well against the purple there. It's easier for me to see then when I saw stuff. So I think our first step will be to saw that. The other materials we're going to be using other than this ingot are 18 gauge sterling silver for the band, and then some copper sheet. I have some various copper here, pieces of scrap, but I'm not sure which one I'm going to use yet. I think this is about 20 gauge. This looks like about 24, maybe 26. So let's go saw this out. Welcome to my sawing area. We'll start with this side, I guess. Using I think this is about a number 1, maybe. I think I'll probably just file this last side. There's so little there. Okay, I did a little bit of filing to clean it up and make it nice and rectangular. That looks pretty good. So now, I think I'm going to use masking tape, and I'm going to draw my design on that for this one. We're going to start with this one that's kind of free floating. Looks like it starts about right there. Goes to about right there. Giving the mark a little bit of thickness because I'm going to probably be using that 20 gauge, and I may file it thinner so it fits right in there, but let's go saw that out. In order to get the saw started in this one, I'm going to use the center punch to put a little dimple at the end of one of these, and then I'll use a little tiny drill bit to drill a hole there. Put a little dimple in this. Oops. A notorious drill bit breaker. Great. So I broke the drill bit in that hole and I couldn't extract it. So what I'm going to do to deal with this is I drilled a hole at the other end, and I'm just going to cut it right to that drill bit, and we'll take it out of there when we do that. So just a little complication for my inability to drill things without breaking drill bits. So we'll give that a try and see how that works. Okay, so I fed it through the hole. I put a smaller blade on, 00 I think it is. So I neatened this up, and this is a thicker hole than I had anticipated because I had to clean it up because that drill bit broke in there. And so I'm going to use a little bit thicker copper here. This is some strip of some sort. I don't even know where I picked it up, but I'm going to, first of all, let's cut this off. So I'm going to spend a little time filing this to get it to fit in there, and then we'll add it in. I took this thicker piece of copper and I cleaned up the hole a little bit better because it was narrower on the bottom, and then I pounded this through there, and hopefully it'll come out looking pretty neat once we solder it in and then trim it off, but we'll see. So let's solder that in first. think I got full penetration of the seam. So we'll find out in a minute. I don't care so much on the back here as long as there's enough to hold it in, but the top I want to look like just a copper colored line in there. Okay, so let's cut that off. I think it might be easier just to use these. You could have soldered off or something, but I'm just going to file it flush anyway. So I think in order to get straighter lines for these other ones, I'm going to use the marker this time and scribe straight lines. So, and we'll see how it goes. So I got one starting right about there, and it goes to about there. Pretty clear line there. Let's try doing that one. Put a little bit bigger blade back on this again. That's not bad. It's a little better than my last one. Figured I'd do a couple at a time here, if we can get that to work. Okay, I cut these two. I didn't cut this one very straight, but I made this slightly thinner by rolling it through my rolling mill so it would fit in that notch nicely. It's not quite getting all the way in there. I'm going to cut a little, well actually let's do it like this. So cut that off a little bit. That's in there pretty far. Let's get the next one in. Just trying to make sure that end goes as far in there as I can get it. just going to file these flush, and then I'm going to kind of repeat the process for the other ones. The two that I did from the side look great. I'm not super pleased with the other one because it's got those little gaps. But it's mostly because I broke that drill bit off. So I think if I hadn't done that, it would have turned out a little better, but we'll see. Okay, so I can't see it on the camera, but I've got this copper line there, copper line here. Part of a copper line here, the other part is still covered in solder there, so I think once I file that down a little further, it'll probably reveal itself. But I'm going to go ahead and cut some more notches for some of these other ones. I need to do a long one going that way. And another one coming this way. I think I'll do those next. So I'm not going to make you watch me do the same thing over and over again. I'll show you when this is done, I'll show you the top here, and then we'll make the band. Okay, I'm not sure whether you can see or not. I still have a little bit of those spots where there's holes there, but I'm hoping that if I keep filing, they'll go away. But it'll be interesting to see how well this shows up once it's polished. But right now it looks pretty cool, so we'll see. I think next I'm going to make a band out of 18 gauge. If I'm going to make one that does this, I actually am going to run it all the way to the edge like that. But if I want it to taper downwards, we need to create kind of a bow tie shape. I didn't draw that very symmetrically, but that's what it's going to be. So I need to measure around and decide what size ring I'm going to make. And this is kind of a big ring, so I'm going to make, I don't know, maybe a 9. Making it kind of wide because that'll give me a little more accurate representation on the ring mandrel here, because the actual ring is going to be a little more wide. So I'm going to center it over the 9 there, and then I usually leave a little bit extra for filing and also to compensate for the thickness of the metal that's different than the paper we're using to measure around here. So that should help offset that a little bit. This can be subtracted since it's going to be part of the band. It's going to be the top part of the band here. We can just deduct it from the length of this, and that'll get us pretty close. So we'll cut a piece about this long. First off, let's decide how wide. I want it to be about the same width here, so I'm just going to use this as a guide. I might as well do it right now, but I'm going to want this to taper down to the center, so let's find the center first. That's about right. Now, we're going to taper this downwards to the middle from these outer edges, and then back out this way from that way. Back out this way from that way. I'm getting tired. Okay, so let's decide how far in we want this to taper. I'd like it to be relatively narrow on the bottom. 5. Let's find the center this way. So it's pretty close to right on 15. So right 6, 7 and a half. 6, 7 and a half. much right there is the center. So if we do that and then go narrow it down to 5 millimeters there. Yeah, I did it right. That would get us pretty close. I'm going to cut the rectangle off first, though, and then I'll cut out the pieces. Flatten this back out. If you're a person who likes sawing a lot, you can always saw that out if you prefer. I just on some of the parts that I don't have to saw, I'll choose not to. Okay. So, I think you've already seen me saw, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut this one off, and then I'll saw the other ones, the inside curves. And I'll be right back. Okay, I filed it up a little bit too after I did that. So now let's make it into a ring shape. So once you get it kind of in the right shape, and I was shooting for a 9, so I pushed it up the mandrel until it dropped freely to a 9. Let's see how close I was. Pretty close. Once I file everything and stuff, it'll probably clean up that way. So I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to file these vertically so that I can solder that kind of to the base, well, the bottom of the side, basically. And then I will pickle it, and then we'll clean everything up and see how it looks. So. For this one, rest this on the pad. And just put that there, so it's unlikely to drop any when I solder this on. So, and I'm just going to place a little bit of solder right along the inside seam, and after we flux it, of course. So let's do that. If you do try this project, just know that I cut out quite a bit of filing, as you can tell by the shavings on my table here. So. I'm just going to kind of push these into the spot where they're touching both the ingot and the band I have pushed up against it. One of the things that is important if this is going to work is that I have pushing tightly against it. That way, even if the metal relaxes under the heat, it'll still be touching and you'll still get a solder joint. It's quite a bit of mass and then a chunk of metal on the bottom, so I'm trying to put a lot of heat in there. I think we're good. Doesn't look like it slipped down at all. And so I'm going to throw that in the pickle, and after it comes out I'm going to do some filing to even everything up, and then I'm going to polish it and I'll show you the results. So stay tuned. So I did a few things. I polished it, and I finished shaping it a little bit more, and I beveled the edge at the top just slightly so that it wouldn't be pointy or pokey. But I think that's kind of what I was looking for. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. So it'll be interesting to see as this oxidizes how, because right now it's got that copper, freshly polished copper that's kind of pink almost, and it'll gradually get oranger and oranger, I think, and stand out more probably. So I think that's a cool ring though. Alright, I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end of the video. Oh wow, I have good hair today after polishing. Alright, that was the copper inlay ring. If you enjoyed this, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that's really wonderful for me. And I'd love to hear what you think. Comments are always welcome. I try to answer them all. Before you leave though, take a look at a couple of my other videos. I have over 220 videos on the channel now. I put out 3 per week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, and one on Saturday generally. So there's lots of content for all different levels. It might be worth a subscribe, so consider that. The last thing is, if you want to support the channel in any way, and you appreciate my work here, check out the video description down below. There's lots of ways you can support me. There's my Patreon, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link. If you wanted to see some of my jewelry for sale, my website's there. And also my merch store, where you can get one of those nice design books I showed you. So, thank you again for watching. Take care. Happy silversmithing.